Call the meeting to order. Mr. Hudson, deliver the invocation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, as is your custom, please bow with me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day you've given us. We ask your blessings upon those that face storms right now, Lord, whether it's the physical storms that are moving across our nation, or, Lord, the storms of health or other problems. We thank you for the blessings you've given Onslow County. We thank you for our progress, and just ask that you please bless this meeting tonight. Lord, give wisdom to those that will be making decisions, and let everything be done to the glory of you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Mr. Hines, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please turn cell phones to off or vibrate. Individuals making presentations or public comments are asked to adjust the microphone as necessary and to speak directly into the microphone. This meeting is being recorded. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the agenda as amended and submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Approval of items on the consent agenda. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the approval of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Item C, fiscal year 20 budget rollover. Ms. Riggs.
With the board's approval of the consent agenda, if the board would like to consider the fiscal rollover, we could. Otherwise, item 3, business A, Mr. Kitchen's ready to talk about the declaration of intent to amend the utility ordinance.
I'm sorry, I misread the totality of the consent agenda. That is a consent agenda item. My apologies. Under business, declaration of intent to amend the utility ordinance. Mr. Kitchen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The legislature in the last session adopted a session law, or a bill, House Bill 873, which is Session Law 2020-61, which changed again the system development fee and when it was owed. When it was first passed, this is the third iteration of when you pay the system development fee. If you recall, when the system development fee was enacted, this board decided it wanted to put in a program to allow people to pay it over time. Apparently, there have been issues, as far as I know, not with ONWASA, but with other governmental entities which were doing the same thing. Apparently, there were several systems which allowed it to be paid over time. At least one, and I'm not sure which one of the lobbying groups wanted that changed so that apparently the issue was when property was going to be transferred, there was an issue with not finding that system development fees were owed. According to the School of Government, after I talked to them about it, because I was wondering, is there some way around this where we can keep this program in place? They said, well, the program actually was brought up. They said there were several different lobbying groups. All of them had different ideas as to when it should be paid and what the statute should look like. But it was specifically brought up and presented to the legislature. People should be able to have a program where they can pay over time. That was rejected. And because of that, they passed what you have in front of you, this new bill, which essentially sets a time limit when the system development fee must be paid by the building permit, time of the building permit, or when they connect. So basically the whole idea is once you have a house, once you have water and sewer hooked up to it, there will not be a system development fee owed at that point. So what that does to us, in effect, is it kills our program. The question would be, well, what if you try to go on with the program, with this bill in place? The answer is, probably you lose your system development fee.
You
And
would
that's-
what?
You would just lose it,
Lose it?
because it wasn't paid and you didn't ask it to be paid, and you allowed them to continue and ignore the law. There is a good argument you would simply lose the fee. And I don't think we want to do that, because that would be not a good thing for us financially.
How much typically would a system development fee be on a new construction? Because it says paid with the issuance of the building permit.
I will ask Tiffany Riggs to answer that question for you.
Please.
Oh,
For a typical residential homeowner, for a 3/4 inch, a system development fee for water is $2,032, and for sewer is $3,700.
How much was sewer? I'm sorry,
700.
Basically, those are our impact fees. So like currently right now, if I was to pull a building permit, I pull my building permit separately, and then I contact ONWASA, and then I fill out my paperwork and I pay my system development fee. So with this new law,
The new law, what happens is, before you can get that, if Jacksonville, for instance, if you will go into Jacksonville, since they have the water system themselves and sewer system, you would have to pay that system development fee before you could pull that permit.
you do that right now with, that's how that works with the city of Jacksonville. If I was to come into the city of Jacksonville, submit my drawings, pull my building permit, part of my building permit fee is the system
Yeah.
development fee. So where Onslow County, it's $2,500 for a house, it might be 8 or 10,000 for Jacksonville. That's because that system development fee is part of the permit.
Right.
So how do we, since we're not issuing building permits, where do we tack onto this?
Before we allow someone to connect, they have to pay that fee.
And the only thing I would add is also, remember in our area, it's not always ONWASA for the sewer. So if you're pulling a building permit, you're paying Plurus for your permits as
And
well.
well, it depends on where it is, obviously. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess what I'm thinking is some of them are paying it now anyway, is
The-
upfront.
Well,
Right, and Tiffany, can you comment on?
All
How many
customers
we have?
pay up front unless they meet the requirements of the payment arrangement, which would be over 65, and it's their primary residence, and they are the property owner. So it's a very limited number for customers that can participate in the payment arrangement right
Does it
now.
really
Trying to
fit?
help the senior citizens
Right.
work things out, and now the legislature's saying, we don't want you doing that no more. So,
Right.
we're hurting the senior citizens.
And I won't say that the legislature understood it when it was passed. All thing I can say is that a lobbyist, I think it was for some individual cities, presented that to them and said, hey, look, we have this program, it will kill it, and apparently it just didn't get any traction. And this is not unusual in Raleigh, when you have several different lobbying groups trying to push different iterations of a bill. One of them will be seized on, they say, this is the one we're gonna pass, and we're not gonna worry about anything else, it'll just get passed. You know, in the future, they may go back and try to correct that, but at least until that happens, it messes our program up.
I was just gonna ask annually, do we have an idea of how many people are in this program?
Less than 10,
I guess that's what I'm thinking.
less than 10. Yes, sir.
A lot of times the builders
Right.
put that fee into the construction. I
This
would
is
think.
typically for somebody who's just owned the land for a long time
Right.
and hasn't developed it, and then they're gonna build that house or whatever.
Well, just, if I could, members of the board, just to be clear about the program that we're talking about, it's the deferred payment plan program for people over
Specifically.
65 years of age. So everybody else, developers, we're not talking about them, we're not talking about anybody that's under 65, they always pay it. It's what this board tried to do to help seniors. The General Assembly has passed a law that prohibits us continuing that program. And so until the state changes their law again, our payment plans for 65 and older go away.
But if you could imagine someone that is buying a house, and these days, a lot of times, and I don't know how they manage to do it, they end up buying houses without a good title search, without going to a lawyer. And I don't do real estate, so I'm not clear how that manages to happen, but I know it does now. And somewhere like Topsail, where you have Plurus, you have ONWASA, it would be very easy for somebody checking a title, if they were to check it, not to miss one, because they don't know they have to contact that individual, either Plurus or ONWASA. Or simply, they don't have a title search done, somebody buys a house and ONWASA sends them a bill for, a couple $1,000, and they go, what's going on? And go to the realtor and say, why didn't you tell me about this? So that is the kind of thing they're trying to avoid. Unfortunately, when, you make choices, and some people are benefited and some people are not. And this is where we are, and we don't have a lot of choice now.
Well, and I would say, I don't, and Royce may have a different opinion, but I don't see it very common that you're able to purchase a home without going through an attorney here, at least not from my perspective. And we do in our MLS upload the actual sewer permits. So if it's on ONWASA or if it's on, they know exactly what they're purchasing, or they should, how many rooms it's supposed to be and how many rooms it actually is. And, so.
Yes, I agree, they should.
Agreements aren't typically recorded as liens against the property, are they? Do we?
No.
No, okay. So there's nothing in the Register of Deeds to show that there's a lien or any
No,
kind
and
of
that's
fee outstanding?
And my experience, that's typical. What you do, you call the utility and say, they owe something,
Yeah.
when you're checking the title.
Well,
Do we have a payment plan option in place if someone's just having financial difficulty? So I guess my question is, if we're not able to offer this program for a period of time, at least, if someone is having financial difficulty and they were one of these folks, are they able to get onto any other payment plan?
Okay, you're talking about after you've already been connected and then you get in trouble. I will leave that to one of you two to address. I don't know
Well,
what you do with it.
we routinely work with customers if they contact us and indicate that they have problems paying. Normally, it's user fees or back charges. And so we set up specific payment plans to the individual, so they're able to meet their obligations to the utility over a period of months. In the case of system development fees, it's a little bit different. The only provision we have for system development fees was the board approved 65 and over. So if, and this doesn't go into effect, by the way, till January 1, 2021. So if after that date, someone is unable to make a full payment of their system development fee, then we won't connect them and they won't be able to get a building permit. Now, we also don't have mandatory connection either. So if you're in a rural area, you're not in a municipality, people have an option of going on a well and a septic tank. They're not mandated to hook up to ONWASA. So the homeowner, the property owner has some amount of self-direction in that, but there's also, of course, a cost in putting down your own well and putting in septic tanks and that sort of thing, especially if your land doesn't perk.
So bottom line is, legislature's made their decision. We've got to move forward with it and go ahead and make a motion to approve this, declaration.
I will say one more. And I'll obviously second this, but I will say this just to, I hear what you're saying loud and clear about this just affects this one program. But if the verbiage says what this says right here, and it says the new laws require that all system development fees be paid prior to issuance of a building permit, then that means that anybody pulling a building permit.
No, it means system development fee is what we call a word of art. It's a term of art. It means that fee charged under 162A, whatever that subchapter is.
Okay.
So that's all it means. It is that one fee.
Okay. Fine, as long as you guys have a handle on it. I was just reading, I was just reading into this too far.
So the people who are in this program now, or I guess you're gonna send them letters and tell them they have to have this thing paid off by
No,
then?
I think they have a right to continue with it. They have a contract. So I don't believe you can put anybody new on it, but I don't think you can force them to pay either.
Just won't do it in the future. Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'll second that motion, by the way.
We have a motion and a second to approve the declaration of intent to amend the utility ordinance and direct the amendment to be set forth on the board's November agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. Award of bid for laboratory building construction. Mr. Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. ONWASA maintains an in-house laboratory that's staffed by 3 full-time chemists. The lab conducts state and federally mandated testing of water and wastewater samples daily. The laboratory is considered a mission-critical component of ONWASA's utility. Since 2007, the lab has been housed in a double-wide trailer at the rear of the main office complex. The trailer has sustained water damage over time. Repairs have been made as necessary. There is a concern, however, that the trailer would be damaged in a significant storm event. Specifically, we are concerned about a wind event. The trailer houses a large amount of scientific equipment that's necessary for our daily operations. The Board of Directors approved a project to construct a brick and mortar building on the main campus to house laboratory, storage, offices, and bathrooms. The project is a pay-go project with funds to construct the full project coming out of ONWASA's fund balance. No borrowing is necessary. And this project is part of the previously approved capital improvement program of ONWASA. The project was advertised widely according to North Carolina General Statutes. Bids for the project were open on August 18th, 2020, in accordance with General Statute 143-129. 8 construction companies submitted bids for the project, which was actually a very good number. We were pleased with the turnout of companies that came out. 3 companies submitted bids that were below the project budget of $2,375,000. Those 3 companies were Primus Structures, HG Reynolds, and Waters Contracting. The low bidder of those 3 was Primus Structures out of Newport, North Carolina. Primus Structures submitted a bid of $1,185,900. Following the period in which bidders are statutorily allowed to withdraw their bids due to error, Primus Structures sent a letter confirming that their bid amount was correct, there was no error in the bid, and they would stand by their bid. It's recommended that the Board of Directors award the bid for ONWASA Laboratory Addition Project to Primus Structures in the amount of $2,185,900 and authorize staff to sign the contract and documents necessary to begin work on the project.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
I have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to consider a motion to award the bid to the ONWASA Library Addition Project to Primus Structures in the amount of $2,185,900 and to authorize the staff to sign the contract and documents necessary to begin work on the project. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing no one in opposition, the motion's adopted. So they left about $200,000 on the table, Primus, huh?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Southwest Wastewater Capacity Solution Update. Mr. David Moore, presenter.
Chairman Bittner and members of the Board of Directors, as noted in the agenda, I'm here this evening to provide a brief update on actions taken on a proposed project to send flow from ONWASA's southeastern wastewater collection systems, Holly Ridge and Summerhouse, to Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune for treatment. For reference, the project was referred to as Alternate 4 during the July 30th Board of Directors meeting, and the discussion was we'd come back at this meeting and talk about any additional information we had. Since being directed to proceed with the further evaluation of Alternative 4 on July 30th, 4 primary things have been accomplished. 1, a task order, which is a contract with a professional services firm, was executed in early August with the Wooten Company. They're the firm that did the capacity study for us, to provide engineering services necessary to refine the alignment of the force main between ONWASA and the base, confirm the ability of the base's collection system to take our flow and transmit it to their treatment plant, identify possible wetlands and easement impacts, and prepare more accurate capital costs, operating costs, and schedule, and they're working on that as we speak. Secondly, an on-site meeting was held August 20th with base utility personnel to discuss the proposed project, visit the likely connection point to their system, and review a potential force main route over a part of the base's property along Highway 17. The base has a gravel access road that parallels the highway, and we have some interest in potentially running the force main up that way because we know there's no other utilities in the way. It's the virgin ground for what we need to do. Third, working with the engineering consultant, we put together a list of additional technical information we needed from the base. Obviously, things involving their system, pumping stations, that kind of thing. We basically want to evaluate their collection system and what's going to happen when we start sending our flow to them. We put that together, submitted it to the base, and the base is working on it, and we'll be getting it in pieces as they complete that. We've also made initial contact with the base's real estate specialist to begin discussion on installation of portions of the force main on base or federal property, base property, including both the southeast and the Swansboro to Piney Green projects. There's definitely going to be some places we're going to be doing construction on their land, and there's quite a few, I'm going to say hoops, but there's quite a few things to do in order to make that happen. So we're trying to get in early and get started in that process. Although still early in the process and pending receipt and analysis of the information requested from the base, the initial discussions have not revealed any major issue that would prevent this approach from being implemented. So we're continuing with preliminary work. We so far haven't found a major roadblock. While unable to provide more detailed information at this time, my goal is to bring the engineering consultant to the November meeting for a presentation to give more in-depth information and also hopefully update capital and O&M cost estimates. I also offer that in addition to the Southeast project, that since July 30th, we've also executed a task order with Wooten for design of the Swansboro to Piney Green force main. Preliminary work is now underway. As a matter of fact, I had a discussion today on the phone about starting the survey of the alignment along Highway 24. We have combined that with a planned water distribution system capital improvement project, the Highway 24 regional trunk main replacement. That's a line that extends from the Hubert Water Treatment Plant to the Piney Green area. It's kind of a major supply main between those 2 points. Since it travels up the same stretch of highway, it's cheaper to get the survey done all at once and potentially construct both of them at the same time, try and save some money. So the work on that is underway as well. I said I would keep it brief. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'd be happy to answer questions on either project, if you have any.
Anybody have any questions?
No, sir.
David, the base appears supportive of the idea of doing the project?
Yes. Yes, we met with the utility personnel, and they actually have designated a certain lift station where we make our connection. Everybody seemed to agree that was the best place to do it. I think it's more of the making sure we don't overwhelm their system as our flow increases, and then figuring out what the exact alignment of the line would be on the southeast side. On the Swansboro one, it's much easier. We're going to go up Highway 24. We end up at our own pump station, so it's just a simpler project from that means. But yeah, everything so far has been, how can we help you get where you need to be?
If this comes to fruition, and with the existing flow, how much sewage will we flow into the base?
And at the end of 20 years, I believe the total would be either 2.2 or 2.4 million gallons a day as an average flow.
And their capacity is something like 15 million gallon or so?
15 million, expandable to 30.
Wow, okay.
So.
Any other questions?
Several of us were at on the base today with the elected officials, and the base is quite proud of this agreement. So they made a point to say how proud they are of this partnership. So
It was a part of the conversation of the partnership between military base Camp Lejeune and Onslow County in multiple facets, and they were very excited about the partnerships between the two. Something they like to tout nationwide when they go.
Well, I appreciate your efforts in moving this along as quick as you have. Thanks.
He's poked me on it about 3 times a week, so.
It's a very innovative approach. I'm glad someone had the foresight to think about it. So we'll receive a more definitive report at the November meeting.
That is correct.
Public comment? Do we have anybody signed up to address the board? No. Anybody come in after the sign-up sheet was? Nobody? All right. We have a closed session scheduled. We need to consider a motion to enter in closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A6, the performance of a public officer or employee.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. The board is in closed session. I guess we're back in session. Back in session. The board conducted a performance evaluation of our chief executive officer, and the board was unanimous in evaluating the performance to be one of exceptional performance, making ONWASA a very effectively run organization with a highly capable staff put together by Mr. Hudson. And we just feel that he is doing an excellent job for not only his employees, but for the ONWASA community and its customers. Anybody have anything they'd like to add?
Thank you for all your work.
The board, in reviewing their performance, reviewed salary history, and effective January 1st, authorized a salary increase of $163,023, an increase from $153,023. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
Make a motion to approve this salary increase?
Second.
Second? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion's adopted. Chief Executive Officer's comments.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the people sitting behind me that work for ONWASA put in a lot of hours every week, and they have specific knowledge sets, whether it's engineering or finance or operations or human resources, IT. They make the organization. ONWASA is a utility, but utility is really nothing that can run itself. We have 1,300 miles of water lines, and they can't fix themselves, and they can't transmit water by themselves. And we've got water plants that can't produce 3 billion gallons of water a year by themselves. It's all people. And so the people sitting behind me and those that they supervise are the ones that perform this service. So I'd like to thank them. Any success we have as a team is shared by the team, and I appreciate them very much. One in particular that I'd like to point out had played for a different team for much of the last year, and that's Mr. Seth Brown. Mr. Brown was deployed defending our nation overseas, and tonight is his first time back with us since his deployment in this meeting. And so I'd just like to publicly welcome him back, and once again, thank him for his service. Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Board of Directors, Tim?
Just like to follow up what was mentioned earlier is the whole ONWASA. I'm part of several boards in the last several years, and I don't think any of them, I haven't had phone calls where people were upset about something. In the last 2 years of part of this one, hope I don't jinx anything, but I haven't received any phone calls from anyone complaining about anything. And I think that's attributed to leadership right down to the folks you talked about behind you, the professionalism, the customer service. I remember years ago, people very upset with the customer service and how they were treated when they came to the window. And a lot of that you don't hear. You just talk about how everything is conducted. So the professionalism, the leadership, the staff, the folks that work with you, that whole commended for excellent work from the top right on down to the newest person hired that's standing in the mud up to their ankles fixing a water line. They've lots of compliments on what you've done with them. And congratulations to Seth for making it back home and doing what he needed to do with the military. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you, guys. I mean, this group is awesome. This management team is awesome. I mean, as a whole, ONWASA is not perfect, but you guys are great, and just thank you.
Royce?
I would echo thank you to ONWASA, and I do want to comment that, you know, we worked hard on this, this procedure to allow our senior citizens and folks who need to get hooked up to our sewer assets. There are people in Onslow County that are struggling with failing septic systems that need that sewer service, and we worked hard to find some kind of plan that would work so that people who couldn't afford to shell out $3,000 or $4,000 at one time could get hooked into our sewer service. And it seems like the General Assembly sometimes just jumps to some conclusions and makes some changes without considering all the information. And I'm sorely disappointed that we have to change that policy. I was proud of that opportunity that we had to provide that service to our senior citizens. And I hope that maybe as the General Assembly comes back into session next year, maybe they can reconsider some of this and make some exceptions. There are some other ways that this could have been handled. They could have required these agreements to be filed as a lien against the property. It probably would have solved 99% of the of this issue without having to blanket negate all those options. So I hope that we can reconsider that sometime in the future and put some kind of program back in place for our senior and citizens and those who don't have the financial means to pay this impact fee all at once.
Okay. Pat?
Mr. Hudson, thank you. I think everybody has acknowledged the fact that it starts at the top and the staff behind you follows their leader, and you have done an exceptional job. Thank you.
I just wanted to also say thank you, and as I had said earlier, when we were in closed session, I haven't been on this board very long, but I have been extremely, extremely impressed with how it's run and the staff here at ONWASA, and certainly Mr. Hudson, what you do. So thank you.
Greg?
Well, Mr. Hudson, we go way back, and you've always impressed me, and you still impress me as we go forward, and I appreciate everything you do. Seth, I thank you for your service, and I'm so glad you're back, and you're back safe. And also, you know, we're all time thanking our staff, and they do a great job, but those guys out in the field, sometimes they get neglected. Seeing them out during the 100-and-some degree weather, today during the rain, and I just want to do a little special thank you to Matt, to your crowd, and all those guys out in the field that have to go through the weather situations that they do. We got a great staff, but these guys tend to get overlooked once in a while. And so I just want to give a shout out to them. And also a shout out to everybody that's watching on TV tonight. Thank you for watching us.
Mr. Braun, I too echo an appreciation for your service. Thank you very much. Mr. Hudson, as a former student, many years ago, I've had a lot of experience as a city manager and have come in association with many managers that I hold in high esteem. You rank right up there with them, buddy. Keep up the good work. Anybody with any other comments?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Bye.
We're adjourned.